On August 6, 1945, a single flash of light erased a city in seconds. 3 days later, another city vanished. And in the middle of both explosions stood the same man. This is not a myth. This is not a conspiracy. This is a documented, verified human story. Before we begin, subscribe for cinematic mini-documentaries about real events that changed the world forever. Because some stories are too important to forget. This is the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, the man who survived 2 atomic bombs. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was never meant to be famous. He was not a general, not a scientist, not a politician making decisions behind closed doors. He was an ordinary man, living in an extraordinary time. Born in 1916, Yamaguchi grew up in a Japan that believed deeply in duty, discipline, and survival. By the time World War II reached its final year, he was a 29-year-old marine engineer, working for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. His job was simple: help design oil tankers for a nation desperate to keep its war machine alive. In the summer of 1945, Yamaguchi was nearing the end of a long business trip in Hiroshima. Japan was losing the war. American bombers filled the skies almost nightly. Entire cities were being erased using conventional firebombs. Yet life continued. People still went to work. Children still walked to school. Men like Yamaguchi still believed tomorrow would come. On the morning of August 6, 1945, Yamaguchi was walking toward the shipyard when something small but fateful happened. He suddenly realized he had forgotten his work permit. Annoyed, he turned back to retrieve it. At 8:15 a.m., the world ended. A blinding white light exploded above Hiroshima, brighter than the sun, sharper than lightning. Yamaguchi looked up just in time to see the sky tear itself apart. Instinct took over. He threw himself into a drainage ditch. Then came the blast. The shockwave slammed into the city at unimaginable speed. Concrete buildings disintegrated. Steel twisted like paper. Human bodies were vaporized in an instant. The temperature at the center of the explosion reached over 4,000 degrees Celsius. Yamaguchi felt himself lifted into the air. His eardrums burst, his vision went white. Burning pain tore across his face and arms as glass and debris sliced into his skin. When he regained consciousness, Hiroshima was no longer a city. It was a burning desert of smoke, fire, and silence. Thousands screamed for help. Others wandered without skin, without direction, without hope. Fires consumed everything that remained. Against all logic, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was alive, severely burned, half deaf, barely able to see. But alive, he had no way of knowing that surviving Hiroshima was only the beginning. The night after the bombing, Hiroshima became something beyond human comprehension. Fires raged uncontrollably. The air smelled of burning flesh and metal. Survivors gathered in makeshift shelters, many of them fatally wounded without realizing it. People begged for water, unaware that drinking would hasten their deaths due to radiation poisoning. Yamaguchi spent the night among the injured, listening to moans slowly fade into silence. Morning revealed the full horror. A black, oily rain began to fall from the sky, radioactive ash, mixed with condensation. No one understood what it was. Many raised their faces to it, believing it was harmless. Yamaguchi knew only one thing: he had to get home. His wife and newborn son were in Nagasaki. Despite the unimaginable destruction, the railway lines miraculously still functioned. On August 7th, just one day after the atomic bombing, Yamaguchi boarded a train, leaving Hiroshima. The journey was silent. Passengers sat with bandages, burns, hollow eyes. No one spoke, no one cried. There were no words for what had happened. When Yamaguchi finally arrived in Nagasaki on August 8th, his family barely recognized him. His burns were severe, his body trembled. Yet he was alive. That night, for the first time since the bomb, he slept beside his family. He believed the nightmare was over. On the morning of August 9th, Yamaguchi, still bandaged and in pain, did something unthinkable. He went to work. At the Mitsubishi office, he attempted to explain why he had been absent. He described a single bomb destroying an entire city. His supervisor laughed. "No weapon could do that," he said. At 11:02 a.m., the argument ended forever. A second flash of white light filled the room. The earth shook violently. And once again, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was standing at the center of nuclear destruction. The night after Hiroshima burned, Tsutomu Yamaguchi believed he was living inside a nightmare he would never wake from. Fires still raged across what remained of the city. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of death. Survivors gathered in open spaces, many of them severely injured, many already dying without realizing it. Some begged for water, others cried out the names of family members who would never answer. Yamaguchi's burns throbbed with pain. His ears rang constantly. Yet one thought refused to leave his mind. He had to go home. His wife and newborn son were in Nagasaki, nearly 300 kilometers away. He did not know if they were alive. He did not know if Nagasaki still stood. But staying in Hiroshima meant certain death. On August 7th, against all odds, Yamaguchi discovered that the trains were still running. The rail lines had survived. He boarded a train filled with silent passengers. Many were burned. Some were bandaged with torn pieces of cloth. No one spoke, no one cried. It was as if language itself had died in Hiroshima. As the train moved away from the destroyed city, Yamaguchi looked back and saw a massive column of smoke still rising into the sky. He did not know it yet, but that smoke carried invisible radiation that would haunt survivors for decades. When he arrived in Nagasaki on August 8th, his family barely recognized him. His face was swollen. His arms were wrapped in bandages. He looked like a ghost who had somehow found his way home. That night, he lay beside his wife, holding his infant son. For the first time since the explosion, he allowed himself to believe he might survive. He believed the worst was over. History had other plans. On the morning of August 9th, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi woke up weak but determined. Despite his injuries, he decided to report to work. In wartime Japan, duty did not pause for pain. Bandaged and exhausted, he arrived at the Mitsubishi office in Nagasaki to explain his absence. As he spoke to his supervisor, Yamaguchi tried to describe what had happened in Hiroshima. He told him that a single bomb had destroyed the entire city. His supervisor did not believe him. No weapon could cause such destruction, he said. It was impossible. Hiroshima must have been hit by many bombs, not one. At 11:02 a.m., the argument ended. A blinding flash of white light flooded the room. The building shook violently. Windows shattered into deadly shards. The pressure crushed the air from Yamaguchi's lungs as he was thrown to the floor. For the second time in 3 days, an atomic bomb had detonated above him. The plutonium bomb exploded over Nagasaki, unleashing a force equivalent to more than 20,000 tons of TNT. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Thousands died instantly. Fires spread once again across a city that had no idea it was about to be erased. Yamaguchi survived again. Protected by the concrete structure of the building, he escaped with no new major injuries. When he emerged outside, he saw a familiar horror-burning ruins, injured civilians, and a sky filled with smoke. Twice in 3 days, he had witnessed the end of a city. Twice in 3 days, he had lived. But survival came with a cost. The invisible enemy radiation had already entered his body, and the real battle was only beginning. Surviving the explosion was only the first test. In the days after Nagasaki was destroyed, Tsutomu Yamaguchi began to feel something was terribly wrong. His burns refused to heal. His body weakened rapidly. He experienced severe nausea, dizziness, and overwhelming fatigue. Soon, his hair began to fall out in clumps. Doctors did not know what was happening. Radiation sickness was something humanity had never seen before. There were no manuals, no treatments, no cures. Patients simply deteriorated, often dying weeks after seemingly surviving the blast. Yamaguchi believed his time had come. He watched others collapse around him, men, women, and children who had escaped the explosions, only to die slowly afterward. Some bled internally. Others developed high fevers and infections that no medicine could stop. Yet, once again, Yamaguchi lived. Weeks passed, his condition stabilized. Against all medical expectation, his body began to recover. It was as if fate itself refused to let him die. But survival carried a heavy psychological burden. Every night, he relived the flashes of light, the screams, the silence that followed. He feared sleeping, afraid he would wake up to another explosion. Worse still was the fear for his family. Radiation was invisible. No one knew how it spread or what it would do to children. Yamaguchi constantly worried that his wife and son would suffer because of his exposure. Survival, he learned, was not relief, it was responsibility. In post-war Japan, Tsutomu Yamaguchi and others like him were given a name. He box shot people affected by the atomic bombs. But the name did not bring honor. It brought fear. Hibakusha were often avoided by society. Employers hesitated to hire them. Families worried they carried disease. Some believed radiation could be passed on through contact or marriage. Yamaguchi rarely spoke about what he had experienced. For decades, he lived quietly, raising his family and returning to work. He carried his trauma in silence, as Japan itself tried to move forward and forget the war. But the memories never faded. He remembered the people who begged for water, the children who wandered alone through burning streets, the cities that vanished in seconds. As he grew older, Yamaguchi realized silence was no longer enough. The world was entering the nuclear age. Weapons far more powerful than those used in 1945 now existed. Nations spoke casually about deterrence and destruction. Yamaguchi knew what those words truly meant. He began to speak publicly not as a politician, but as a witness. He told the world that nuclear weapons were not symbols of power. They were tools of absolute human suffering. He warned that no city, no country, and no civilization would survive their use again. His voice was calm. His message was terrifying, because he was not predicting the future. He was remembering the past. For many years, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was officially recognized as a survivor of only one atomic bomb. Hiroshima, Nagasaki was left out of his records. Like many hibakusha, his full story was buried under paperwork, politics, and a world eager to move on. Governments discussed numbers, strategies, and military outcomes. Very few asked what it meant to survive the end of a city twice. Yamaguchi never demanded recognition. He did not seek attention. For most of his life, he simply carried the truth alone. But as he grew older, he felt a responsibility heavier than silence. In the early 2000s, he began to speak more openly. He gave interviews. He addressed students. He shared his experiences with a calm voice that carried unimaginable weight. In 2009, more than 6 decades after the bombings, the Japanese government finally made it official. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was recognized as a double atomic bomb survivor, the only person formally acknowledged to have survived both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The recognition came late, but it mattered, because Yamaguchi was no longer just a survivor. He was a living warning. He spoke before international audiences, including the United Nations. Standing before the world, he described what nuclear weapons truly do not, in theory, but in reality. He did not speak with anger, he spoke with certainty. Tsutomu Yamaguchi passed away in 2010, at the age of 93. He did not die in a flash of light. He died as a witness to history. He left behind more than a story of survival. He left behind a message, simple, clear, and impossible to ignore. Nuclear weapons do not end wars. They end cities. They end families. They end futures. Yamaguchi often said he survived for a reason, not because he was special, but because the world needed someone who had seen everything, to explosions, to destroyed cities, hundreds of thousands of lives lost. And one man who lived long enough to tell the truth. Today, the world still possesses thousands of nuclear warheads, far more powerful than those dropped in 1945. The technology has advanced, the danger has multiplied. But the human cost remains the same. Yamaguchi's life reminds us that history is not just dates and numbers. It is flesh and blood. It is fear and pain. It is survival against impossible odds. His story asks a question that still has no answer. If one man could survive the end of the world twice, can humanity survive it even once more? If this story moved you, like this video. If it made you think, subscribe for more true stories that history tried to forget. And if you believe stories like this must never happen again, share it. Because remembering the past is the only way to protect the future.